I'm gonna show to you the chess game between Hikaru Nakamura and Alireza Firouzja and FIDE Candidates 2024, round number 5. Let's get it on. 5. So let's begin on E4, E5, knight F3, knight C6, bishop C4, Gyuko piano. Gyuko piano, yes, Italian game. Gyuko piano, knight F6, D3, bishop C5, and then C3, H6, B4, B4. This is Gyuko piano game, main line Gyuko piano. So bishop E7, queen B3, then castles king side. And then A4, D6, knight B D2, knight B8, D4, E takes D4, C takes D4, and then A5, okay? E5, knight H5, B5, knight F4, F4, G3, D5, bishop F1, okay? And then knight E6, bishop G2, C6, castles king side, and then knight D7, bishop B2, knight B6, B takes C6, B takes C6, bishop C3, C5, rook FB1, rook FB1, rook A6, and then D takes C5, and then bishop takes C5, and then queen to B5, queen to C7, rook C1, queen A7, and then queen E2, bishop D7, bishop F1, and then knight C4, good move or brilliant move, knight B3, and then bishop to B6, rook D1, rook D1, queen A8, bishop G2, knight C5, mistake. The best move is rook C8 and or queen B8, my fellow chessers. So let's continue on. Knight C5, knight takes C5, bishop takes C5, knight H4, and then knight B6, bishop D4, attacking the bishop on C5, bishop takes D4, bishop takes D4, and then rook A6, D4, and then rook A7, H3, king C7, rook C7, and then G4, then queen C8, ooh, like a battery. So queen to D2, rook C5, queen F4, then rook E8, and then knight F5, then bishop takes F5, G takes F5, and then queen C7 attacking the pawn on E5, the same as this rook, okay? So let's continue on rook E1, defending the pawn. So knight G7 attacking again the pawn on E5. So E6, and then queen takes F4, rook takes F4 because we have a blind spot. So rook takes F4, knight F6, and then knight F6, and then rook G4, king F8, rook G2, and then E takes F6, and then F takes E6, and then king E7, rook B2, and then rook EC8, and then bishop F1, knight E4, bishop D3, knight C3, F4, and then G4, and then rook to G2, then G5, then F5, knight to D5, rook E4, then knight B4, then F6 check, and then king takes F6, and then rook F2, rook F5, rook F5, rook takes F5, king takes F5, and then E7, rook takes D3, E8 queen, and then rook takes E8, and then rook takes E8, and then knight F4, attacking the pawn on H3, king F1, and then D3. But D3 after D3. Wait, D3, king F2, knight takes h3, king e3, g4, king takes d3. That is the mistake of Alireza. Firouzja, my fellow chessers, because g3 is the best move. Rook f8 and then king e6. After king e6, Alireza Firouzja resigned the game. Why? Because if you put the rook on g8, if example rook g8, g2, and if you take this, we have a4, my fellow chessers. As you can see the board in g2,